Welcome to Home Farm. Today we're going to be reviewing the Evolution Mitre saw. This is the R255 model. As part of the review, we're going to show you what's inside the packaging. We're going to then assemble the mitre saw and then we're going to put it into action. So first up, we're going to open the box, see what's inside and take it from there. We've opened the box. The first thing that we see is the instruction manual, along with a guide on how to assemble the mitre saw. That's going to be quite helpful, I hope. Taking this away, we can see more of the parts and components inside. So we'll continue working our way through the box and taking everything out. With the first layer of parts taken out, we can see the main chassis for the mitre saw in the area below. The box is quite heavy. We bought a jigsaw from Evolution a couple of months ago. Again, that was very heavy, very sturdy. It was a really good piece of equipment, so we're hoping that the mitre saw is going to be as good, if not better. So there we go. We've removed all of the components and bits and pieces to the mitre saw. They're all around us. I've got the instructions in front of me and we're going to start following them and we'll see how long this takes to assemble. So the next thing we need to do is screw on this little bit onto the side of the handle. It requires an Allen key which isn't provided, so I'm going to quickly nip inside and get one. So we're approaching completion of the assembly. By far the most difficult part was sliding the actual bit that's got the blade on it onto these two prongs. The thing is, it was incredibly stiff. I called the support team. They said it's relatively straightforward. When you look at the manual, it basically implies that you just got to have those two little pins popped out facing up and it should just slide on. It certainly wasn't as simple as that. It took a fair amount of I would say force to apply it back on. When we look through the gap down here, you can see that green pin there. Basically you have to push that all the way through and that little pin pops out and it actually clicks into place, which is now what it's finally done. But it wasn't the easiest thing in the world to do, and it took a fair amount of force, like I said, to actually get it on. So I'm not sure whether it was just this particular unit, because the guys at Evolution support team seem to say that it should slide on quite easily. Well, anyway, that's that portion done. We're now going to slot the blade on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to release that. That allows the handle to come up. That gives us access to the blade area. We're going to install the blade next. This is the blade inside here. We're going to take it out. I'll show you what's inside. So this unit comes with a steel, aluminium, wood and plastic blade. There is a separate diamond one which allows you to cut through bricks and other materials. But this is the one that we wanted for the time being because we're going to be doing quite a lot of wood cutting. So we're going to put this blade onto the mitre saw now. So there we go, we've assembled the mitre saw. This is the first time I've ever had to put one together. It was quite simple in terms of what needed to go where, but fixing the blade, for example, was quite fiddly and a little bit tricky. I'm sure with time I'll develop more of a familiarity with it and I'll be able to do it a little bit easier. But you know, it's on, it's working, I hope. We'll power it on now and see whether what I've done is in fact correct. As a final point, I've put the little pouch at the back, which obviously goes on the exhaust that collects any sawdust that comes through. Typically these things aren't hugely effective, but I've done it anyway. I've got two clamps, which we can use when you've got the right wood that you want to cut. And we have a piece of Evolution side plating, which I'm not sure where that goes. I've looked at the manual, I've looked at the instructions, it's not even mentioned as a part. So I don't know, I'll figure that out, but obviously it's not critical to what we've got in front of us right now. And as I said, I'm now going to plug it in and we're going to cut through our first piece of wood. When the mitre saw ships, it's down to a 45-degree angle. There's a little trigger underneath this handle. We're going to push that, take that down to 90 degrees for ourselves, or 180 degrees I should say, because what we want to do is I want to be cutting logs just straight down at a 90-degree angle so that they're straight. So I've placed it at that. We are now going to get a sample piece of wood and fire it up. But before I do that, let's just quickly see, getting out of the way just to make sure that everything's installed properly, that it is actually working. Everything appears to be tight and working. So here goes nothing. So as part of our review, we're going to cut through a thinner board, kind of a standard plank that you would cut through. And then we've got a slightly thicker one, which it should also be able to cut through quite easily. Super easy, no problems at all. Next up, we're going to go with the thicker piece. We're just going to get it in there nicely. Again, nice clean cut, very easy. It's brand new, so you would have hoped that it would cut through the wood quite seamlessly. What I'm now going to do is get some more wood. This is actually for an actual project that we're now going to be doing. My wife needs some planters that we're going to be putting outside the front door. We've got old oak beams that we are going to upcycle and convert into those. The reason that this blade is super useful for that is because there are old beams from within the house and they have got a lot of nails and metal type stuff running through them in certain places. This blade should be able to cut through all of that without blunting. And yeah, we're going to start with that particular project. So as I mentioned, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be cutting the old oak beams to create some planters. We can see we've bought 2 eucalyptus trees that we're going to keep in pots up on either side of the front door. In order to do that, we're going to use these beams here. They're all going to get chopped to 50 centimeters in length. As I said, they've got various amounts and various lengths of metal nails and other metal protrusions coming through them. So we're going to be using the mitre saw to cut them into 50 centimeter lengths. Once that's done, we're going to start piecing them all together. I've got the trusty impact driver, the drill to drill the pilot holes, and nice long screws that will allow us to bind it all together. So here we go. So there we go, that's our base built. Now we're going to just keep constructing more and more of these pieces. They will stack on top of each other until we have the formation of a box planter. So I've used the mitre saw to cut all of these pieces. You can see the edges are really nice and clean. It's cutting through it super easy. I've gone through a fair amount of old nails and old metal bits that have been in the beams. But it's gone through them very easily, and the blade has not struggled at all. And these are quite dense piece of wood. It's all oak, it's all old oak, and the mitre saw has really gone through them very, very easily. This shows you a cross section of one of the oak beams I've cut. You can see that there was a nail or some metal in there. You can see it's just gone through it very, very cleanly. The edges are all nice and smooth. I'm very, very impressed so far with this mitre saw. Now it's going to be a matter of longevity and to see how long it is able to cut so nicely for, because it is obviously brand new, and as it gets older it'll just be interesting to see whether it performs as well as it is at the moment. This is probably the best example of me cutting through metal. I hadn't even realized I'd gone through a bolt until I tried to put a screw through it. So it just goes to show how cleanly I managed to get through that. That is a pretty significantly thick bolt that was running through that wood, and it managed to get through it very, very nicely. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this review of the R255 Evolution mitre saw. It is a fantastically well-built piece of equipment. It feels robust, it feels strong. The blade itself is also very strong, very thick, and we're hoping it is going to last for quite some time. When we built our log store, we borrowed our neighbor's mitre saw, which is probably about 10 years old. This Evolution is a lot more powerful than that. It really does cut through the wood a lot easier. It's probably got something to do with the fact that the blade is obviously also newer and a lot sharper. It's also got a laser sight. It is quite bright. I'm not sure it's really coming out on the video particularly well, but it does allow you to cut along the lines that you actually want to. It obviously does rotate sideways, so you can cut on the angle too. You can see the degrees at the back. You can also see the laser light actually there quite well. So all in all, I think that for what you are paying for this, I think it's a pretty good piece of equipment. It's not in the same price range as the DeWalt's or some of the other more premium products, but it certainly does feel very, very well built. And as with all things, we're just hoping that the motor and the blade and the components do last us, because it will be really nice to be able to have this for the next 5 to 10 years at least. So there you go. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the subscribe button below, and we hope to see you on our next video. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. You can also follow us on Twitter or check out our website at myhomefarm.co.uk. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button below, and if you have any suggestions for any other videos you would like to see, please leave a comment. We hope to see you on our next video.